Chapter 3, Section 9 is entitled Multiplying Fractions and Mixed Numbers. This is the homework helper for the workbook page. So the nice thing about multiplying fractions and dividing, it will be the same as for Chapter 3, Section 10, is that you don't have to get common denominators, which saves us a lot of time. A lot of the time we can jump right into multiplication. So let's take a look at a few problems from this section. Number 1, you've got 5 times 1/2. Now what I don't like about this question is it's not actually two fractions, and that's really what this section is all about, is multiplying fractions. So what I want to do is change 5 into a fraction, and that's pretty easy. 5 as a fraction is 5 over 1. And if you want to check me on that, do 5 divided by 1 on a calculator, and you'll pretty quickly see that it is indeed 5. Now, when you multiply, you just multiply straight across. We'll talk about reduction later, but there's nothing to reduce in this question. 5 times 1 is 5, and 1 times 2 is 2. And that's 5 over 2, and that's quite fine. Simplest form does not really have anything to do with this being an improper fraction. That's not a problem. If you really want to change it to 2.5 as a mixed number, you can, but it's really an extra step. What would be problematic is if this is something like 6 over 2, where I could take a number out of both 6 and 2. Then they would want you to do a bit of simplification. But that doesn't exist here. So leave 2.5 or 5 over 2 and be good with it. Okay, number 10, 2 1/3 times 3/5. Okay, so what's wrong with this question is you do actually have a mixed number here, and there's really no way like adding and subtracting to do this in parts. So you got to do it all at once. So you're probably going to want to change this into an improper fraction. So that's of course going to be 7/3. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7, and the denominator would stay 3. And I'm multiplying that by 3/5. Alright, now at this point, I'm going to multiply. And I'm going to leave a little gap here because I'm going to come back and show you a different route here in just a minute. But I'm going to multiply. 7 times 3 is 21. And 3 times 5 is 15. Now as you can see with those numbers, 3 comes out of both of those numbers. So now I'm going to chop 3 out of both of those numbers. And that will give me my simplest form answer. 21 divided by 3 is 7, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. And so 7/5 is the simplified form of the answer for question number 10. Now I said I was going to show you a different route. You can actually simplify first. What you have to do is obviously reduce any fractions you could here. Like if it was 8 over 2, you could reduce that to 4 over 1. But then what you do is you look at the diagonals here and take any number out of the diagonals you can. With 7 and 5, there's nothing there. So if you're looking for something, you're going to be looking for a while. But with 3 and 3, you could take 3 out of both of those. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is also 1. And once you've simplified it, then you would multiply across just like we did. 7 times 1 is 7. 1 times 5 is 5. And there's the simplified answer, and I don't have to reduce after the fact. Again, it does not matter which technique you employ, just employ it correctly. Alright, let's take a look at question 16. 2 1/3 times 3 3/8. We've got two mixed numbers here, so both of these are going to have to get changed into improper fractions. So we've got 2 1/3, that's going to change into 7/3, and 3 3/8, that's going to be changing into 27/8. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. The denominator stays 3. That's how I came up with 7/3. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 3 is 27. The denominator stays 8. That's how I came up with 27/8. Alright, now at this point, you can multiply across, which is what I'm going to do. 7 times 27 in the numerators is 189. And the denominator is 3 and 8, which is 24. Now, hopefully you remember me the other day talking about form and mathematicians being kind of an odd group. Since this question started off with mixed numbers, they probably want a mixed number as the answer. Now you might be saying, well, why didn't I do that back over here? Well, they both weren't mixed numbers, but here they are. So now I'm going to have to do a little bit more work. I'm going to figure out how many times 24 goes into 189 to make this happen, and that's 7 times. 24 times 7 is as close as I can get to 189 without going over, and that's 168. That means I have a remainder of 21, and the denominator stays the same, 24. Now, maybe it wasn't very easy to see back here, but now it probably is that this fractional part also actually reduces. So when they were talking about simplest form, I have more work to do. So with the 21/24 part now, I'm going to chop 3 out of both of those, which is the biggest number I can take out of 21 and 24. And when I do that, that's going to change into 7/8. Now, if you want to go back up top, we could take it back out of the 3 out up here if we really wanted to, and that would give me 63/8, which works, but you'd still have to bring it back to here. If you want to go reduce way back up at the top, like I showed you in the last question, which would be much simpler, on this diagonal with 27 and the 3, take 3 out. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 27 divided by 3 is 9. And there's your 63/8 with a whole lot less fuss involved.